Hey, what's good, fam? Welcome to another episode of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. As you can see, it is just Jeff and I.
What up?
Big news. My book, The Inner Circle, Focus and Fulfillment Habits of the Enlightened, drops in 2 weeks.
Nice. What's the actual date that it drops?
It'll be March 1st.
March 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I am super pumped. This is the second book I've written. The first one, The Manifestation of Affirmation, it's out there on Amazon right now. But that was an exercise for me. It's kind of like a challenge to myself to A, actually write a book, and B, find out if I enjoyed that process. And as a result of writing The Manifestation of Affirmation, I realized it was brought to the forefront how much I did not know about the publishing process.
Absolutely, yeah.
So now I'm working with Jill Fagan and on the publishing side.
Nice.
And she's really, really helped me get my thoughts on paper. And she handles everything from after the manuscript was complete, editing, publishing, all that good stuff.
Nice,
So,
dude. Congrats on that, man. That's a big move, dude.
You know, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And, just like we were just talking about offline, outsourcing skill sets that you don't possess.
Right.
I don't know dick about publishing a book. I did it, and I was happy about it.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I for sure know it could be done better.
Right.
And it's not going to be a major career shift for me.
Right.
So insert Jill, make it beautiful.
Right.
And she's a fucking rock star.
That's good. Well, that's like anything in life. Everything's an iterative process.
Yeah.
It's not like the whole saying, like Mark Zuckerberg, done is better than perfect.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so as long as you're finishing.
Even John Keogh, when we interviewed him way back when, he was like, you remember him saying, if you're waiting for, if you're proud of the first edition, you waited too long.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the damn truth, man.
So, I mean, shit, just look at, the beginning of the show, compared to where we are now.
Right.
When we look back on 3 iPhones and Facebook Live with misters on the porch at a coffee shop.
Right.
To the hit and miss Skype interviews that we had, to the in-person exclusive on video Feed Me, Fuel Me YouTube channel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, this today crushes what we used to be.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But you can't wait till you have to do all that other stuff first to know that this is where you're supposed to be.
Right.
We didn't even know that this was like what it was supposed to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it sort of brings us into our topic today, which is one of the chapters in your book, which is self-identity.
Yeah.
Because you think about where we started with the podcast or any business that we have, and it's like where you were the first day is completely different than where you're sitting today or at this present moment.
Right.
And we all have a self-identity where we could hold ourselves to this old portrayal of ourselves, but then you have to sort of shed that skin to become the new person,
right,
and evolve to being what you actually want to be and accepting that, without looking back and saying like, being disgusted at yourself and say like, that was just part of the process.
Holding it against yourself.
I understand where I was at this point. I wasn't as knowledgeable, but now at this point, like, it's an evolution in the process.
Right.
And being able to shed that old identity, respecting it, but it being able to, evolve into this new form and this new being, and continue, and the continual evolution as we grow.
Sure.
Because, what we believe today may not essentially believe what we say right now may not be what we think about and say the same thing a year from now, 2 years from now.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. That we talked about that a couple of times in the journey of some of our guests, particularly the cats that achieved a high level of success in sports and business.
Right.
Or the one that most readily comes to mind are the guests that served in the military. And so much of the stunted growth in the immediate transition away from the uniform, where it's like you're hanging on to the way things used to be when you were up at 5 a.m. doing PT at work by 07:30,
Right.
and you work till the job is done, and blah 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 blah. That deployment mindset where it's just mission, mission, mission.
Right.
You know, that may not be the construct of your life after. You know, and if you're hanging on to all that stuff, you can't progress in this new phase of life.
Right.
You know, and on top of that, you know, the most important part, and I talk about it in the book, is taking those tools that made you successful in that environment and evolving them and adapting those same traits to make you successful in that next phase. And I think that's, you know, it's a huge part of what I talk about in the book, in that just like we're looking at that transition away from one phase of life to the next, you know, the getting over yourself and adopting that, not holding your past failures against yourself so that you can learn those lessons and move on.
Right.
You know, that's another part of the self-identity thing.
Right.
You know, you need to, it's imperative that you reframe quote unquote failure as a lesson learned so that it's not repeated.
Right.
And you can be, you know, more positive and productive in the hereafter.
Yeah. And you know, the tough part about that is, like you said, taking responsibility and accountability of everything that you own in life, essentially.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, it really resonates with me because I finished that book by David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah. That's actually what I'm starting tomorrow.
Nice. Very good book.
Okay.
And the reason why I love it, because it almost mirrors exactly how my dad brought us up, my family, myself.
Okay.
And it's like hardcore in your face, like no bullshit accountability.
Okay.
And he's had, like, his story, you'll hear it, he's had a fucked up life.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not
Yeah.
everybody's lived that road that he's walked, right?
Right.
But a lot of the principles he's talking about is like looking yourself in the mirror, what he calls your accountability mirror.
Okay.
You look at yourself, you say, if you're overweight, he's like, just say, don't be nice to yourself. Say, I'm fucking fat. If you're not smart enough or you don't know a topic, say, I'm stupid. And put it on Post-it notes. Okay, if I want to lose X amount of weight, here's the top of the thing.
Right.
And start breaking it down little by little. He's like, but you'll never completely get ownership of that identity unless you start being real with yourself first.
Sure.
And that's the most difficult part, is because a lot of people, they cushion the blow. Oh, you're not fat. You're pleasantly plump. You're this and this.
Yeah,
He's like, just get real with yourself, right? And that's what you talk about, like with the self-identity portion, is like, because I'll look at like I get an example when I was younger. We talked about it with a little bit of Chris Powell. Like he's talking about his kids growing up where some like to work hard and the others want instant gratification. I was the instant gratification guy, right?
Okay.
So I watched what my brothers did. Elite athletes went to, you know, all state level championship things, achieved great feats in their life.
Yeah.
I would see them and it's like, I'm gonna do that because I'm their blood and this, but I saw the work that they had to put in, right?
Sure.
But I didn't do the hard work. I was just sitting there being lazy
Okay.
about it.
Yeah.
So I essentially look at myself, my accountability mirror, and say, like, I squandered a lot of the talent I had younger because I was lazy. It's not that I beat myself up about it, but I get
Right.
real and say, like, okay, from this point, when did I start getting authentic with myself?
Yeah.
I was, at that time, 260 pounds in college. One day I woke up, looked in the mirror, said, Jeff, you got bitch tits, dude. From that day forward, I did that P90X program.
Yeah.
Lost 60 pounds, got to 185, boom. But that was the first level of being authentic and transparent with myself that took me 19 years to get to.
Yeah.
Right? But the other years of just lying to myself, like, no, you look good. You're just a big bone guy.
Yeah,
You're this
yeah.
and this and this.
Dude, I can't imagine you at 260.
It was wild, dude. I have to post a picture, dude.
Yeah.
But I think
The biggest I've ever seen you is that afro.
Oh yeah, that was in high school. It was like 220, 225.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the 260 is complete. It was after knee surgery and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was that moment where at the time I was looking at that knee surgery or that blowing out my knee was like, oh, this sucks because but that was honestly the best thing that ever happened to me.
Sure.
Because it made me look in the mirror and understand, like, dude, you've taken all your talents, you've squandered them, you've been fucking lazy. Now I had to actually put in the hard work behind that and actually achieve real results, right?
Sure. Yep.
But if I would have continued to hold that identity of being like, you're the lazy dude, you're not worth a piece, you're not worth shit, da 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 da, I would, who knows where I'd be today, right?
Just beating yourself up.
Just beating yourself up. But I acknowledge it. I acknowledge where I was mentally, physically there, and say, okay, that was a great learning experience, like you mentioned. And then now we start building that callus of growing to the person we want to be.
Becoming resilient.
Exactly. So it's those things that happen in life, but it's like when you mentioned, you take that full accountability, that full responsibility of your own actions, thoughts, and ideas and your surroundings is when you can actually have the control that you want in your life, you know?
You know, and I talk about in the book, I use the example multiple times throughout the book, the lessons learned from getting kicked out of the Air Force Academy.
Right.
And how it would have been so easy at 20 years old, and now I'm 35.
Right.
Gonna be 35. Holy shit. So, you know, to hold that against myself for 15 years.
Right.
As opposed to learning the lesson of integrity, and now I'm uncompromising on it, you know, whereas before, like the thing that I cannot stand on the planet Earth is a liar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I did that. You know what I mean? So there was so many lessons learned, not only about integrity for me, but who I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And as I sit here about to be 35, I cannot be an example using the vehicle of this podcast. I can't be the example of for the members of CrossFit PHX. I can't be the example for my kids and my wife if I'm still kicking myself in the ass about something that happened 15 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? However, because of that experience, I'm now able to apply those lessons in the here and now.
Right.
So an experience like that holds a lot of people back can also be used as a vehicle to really propel you forward. And that's the mental shift that I want for people. You know, how many people have, you know, and we know plenty of them who have, like you were saying, have like incredible weight loss stories. Right. But still look in the mirror after all that obvious physical aesthetic progress, and they still see themselves as fat.
Right.
And, you know, not even that, you know, we can take a step back, and how many people have walked that path, gone through that journey, and still see themselves as undeserving or less than.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a very real thing, you know, where you've accomplished so much from the outside looking in would be a positive, but you're still hanging on to a negative self-image that no longer applies in the here and now.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
So that's the kind of stuff that, you know, I discuss in the book.
Nice. I love that, man.
Yeah.
It's great because, you know, self-discovery is always happening. And as I start, you know, peeling back layers more and more, reading more books and asking myself those questions when you're by yourself and like, what is it that I want in this world?
Yeah.
What is the person that I want to become? Who do I want to surround myself with? And you start getting real with yourself about who you truly want to be. You start uncovering stories that aren't, or I can't say you. I start uncovering stories that I'm holding somebody else's story from a book that I read. Like, say I'll read a David Goggins book or something, or just any book. And I'll hear their story that they do. And then I'll attach myself somehow through that reading and say, damn, that's fucking badass story. That's me. And it's not me.
Sure.
That's a story. It's an example that's supposed to help myself relate to a circumstance that happened. But that exact example isn't my example, right?
Right.
So I've had to do a lot of deconstruction and work to look at like, what stories am I holding on to that aren't necessarily mine? Maybe it was something given to me by my parents, my brothers, my sisters, and outside, whatever it may be.
Right.
And then once I reveal what that is, and I can finally say, no wonder that I act or do do things in a certain way,
Right.
because I was trying to follow a path that wasn't necessarily mine. Now that I understand that,
Yeah.
what is the path that I want to follow?
Sure.
And so like letting go of those identities to where it's like I have to be the smartest motherfucker in the room. That may have served me at one point,
Right.
but does it serve me anymore?
Sure.
It may not.
Yeah.
You know, because we talked a lot last year about masculine, feminine energies. And the masculine is more just like, just punch through fucking holes and just like grind. That served me at one point.
Right.
How can I tap into the feminine energy to where you're more loving, more affectionate towards people, where you can say, oh, I love you, thank you, receive compliments.
Sure.
That's a very tough thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to start tapping into that, because there's strength and power in having that feminine energy.
100%.
But holding the identity of just like, I'm the motherfucker who can stay up 24 hours, 48 hours and get shit done. Can you fucking do it?
Right.
And like I held that as like a badge of honor, just like this motherfucker here, like he goes to sleep when I'm fucking grinding. Like this cat's a pussy. Like this is how my mind thought since I was, fuck, dude, a teenager.
Yeah.
And I continue to hold on to the idea, but instead of just looking at somebody and saying like, okay, they may not possess the same qualities or traits that I do. Doesn't mean it's the greatest quality or trait in the world.
Right.
How can I start seeing if this idea is truly serving me today and now?
Right.
And what can I start doing to become a better evolved person of Jeff Thornton? So
for sure,
it's just it's wild how that stuff happens.
I mean, I talk about coaching a lot in Inner Circle.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lessons that I've learned as a result of coaching and mentorship that I've had. And to your point, one of the reoccurring themes in that conversation is, how you are only got you this far. And, so you have to evolve. You either have to accumulate more and better tools, or you have to let go of, coming back to self-identity. You have to purge so much of a lot of that old shit that no longer serves you. Like you said, that, grind, Gary V mentality, I'm working while they're sleeping mentality served you up to this point. But does it serve you now to get you to where you want to go? Right. Like, is it okay with regards to getting to the next level to not work that hard and give some of that responsibility to someone else? You know what I mean? Or find somebody who's better at it than you do. Absolutely. Than you are. That's those are the kind of things that we are able to beat our chest about. I coach all the classes. Well, guess what? You can't make any money because you can't sign anybody up because you're out there fucking coaching. Right. Does it make sense to keep coaching all the classes? Absolutely not. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, that's the evolution. Like, yes, it's cool and it's awesome. Be proud of that. Right. You know what I mean? But at the same time, okay, now it's probably, for me to take advantage of other opportunities, it's no longer my time to keep doing it the way I've been doing it. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it's a huge awakening, and like in the here and now, sometimes it's a really tough pill to swallow. Right. Cause we keep using hanging on to it. Yeah. You don't realize how tight you're holding on to that shit. Yeah. Until somebody forces you to acknowledge what you're missing because you don't have a free hand anymore. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, that's a lot of the discussion in Inner Circle. Like there's other things, but a lot of these themes overlap. Right. You know what I'm saying? But like self-identity is so big, man, because you cannot become who you want to be acting like who you used to be. It just doesn't apply anymore. Right. And when it comes to our evolution in terms of opportunity, like we wouldn't have the opportunities we have now as a podcast in terms of sponsorship and the wider net that we cast, if we were still trying to do this shit on iPhones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that no longer serves us and our mission.
Right. Yeah. And a big piece of self-identity that you have to come to grips to is like, you are who you are. And you have to acknowledge that if you feel a certain way, you act a certain way, there's no need to conform to what you feel society's going to accept. Like, if you're an aggressive sort of person, some people will be like, well, since I'm overly aggressive, let's make this podcast more passive. Let me say the nicest, most cuddly things in the world. But it's a weird thing about energy. People, whether it's logical or not, people can sense that that's not your true identity. So you have to.
It's not authentic.
It's not authentic. So you have to accept that this is who I am as a person, for better or for worse.
Right.
These are the traits that what make Jeff Thornton, for instance. And I just have to fall in love with that piece. Like, this is who I am, and I'm not going to conform to being this identity to make people love me or try to attract these things to me. Because if I'm my true, authentic self, I'm gonna reap the rewards and success, abundance, everything that I can attract. But otherwise, I'm just repelling it because it's a false identity. It's this false character bravado that we carry. So it's an important thing, but you have to find. I found it that I've had to find, like, what is it that I love about myself? What is it that I don't necessarily enjoy, but I want to like maybe work on? Not maybe, that I want to work on. And then what are some things that I just want to completely let go of and say, well, this is not, like we mentioned, this isn't going to serve me. This isn't exactly who I want to be. So what is it in my life that I do love, the people I want to surround myself with, the opportunities, and if it doesn't fit in that value system, I just completely forget about it. Whether it's money, whether it's business, whether it's friends, if it doesn't fit in this value system that I make for myself, I don't even worry about it. And back in the day, it used to hold on to me like, well, this person doesn't like me. What can I do to make this person like me? What can I do to make this job want me? It's like, I don't even want the fucking job. Why do I care if they want me? Because I don't even want them. Why does this person not want me? Why do I want them? And so peeling back those layers and saying, just because not everybody's going to like you, not every job or whatever is going to want you, I'm fine with that because here's the value system that I've put in place. And the rest, anything else outside of this is off the table. It never has to cross my mind again and take up any mental space. And that's just been like a huge, clarity piece for me.
Dude, I think that's awesome. That's the way I run my business. Like, I don't want everybody at CrossFit PHX. The people that subscribe and embrace our culture will stay. The ones who don't won't. But the product is so good, the culture is so good that there's more people that want to be there than there are people that aren't. That leave. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things I talk about in the book is paying attention to the signs. Like in the context of business, one of the things is, are you making more money? Are you attracting more people? Or are you losing members by the dozens? You know what I'm saying? There are some very obvious signs about, how you're living, how you're doing business, what you're attracting or pushing away. That will tell you whether you're living in the right. Are you living your truth or are you living a lie? There are some very obvious signs that are indicators as to which is which. You know what I'm saying? So, like, to your point, if you're living in your truth or what you believe to be your truth, and all the signs validate that truth, then you're good to go. But if you're telling yourself that you're indeed living your truth, but everything around you indicates the opposite, now it's time to have a real conversation, maybe even possibly an intervention. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're delusional. You know what I'm saying? So, I couldn't agree with you more with regards to not conforming, you know what I'm saying? Being who you are, embracing those things, but at the same time having the awareness to acknowledge the pieces of you that can improve.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a huge
because
piece.
we're all, regardless of how abundant we like to think that we are,
Right.
you know, there's always things that we can improve.
Right.
But they're not necessarily the things that come to mind most readily, you know, like not having enough money or not looking handsome or beautiful enough or what, you know, those things, those superficial things, that surface level stuff, that's not necessarily where the work needs to be done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's very, you know, that if that's the priority, that's very, that's a sign of lack of awareness.
Right.
Versus if you know, go a handful of layers deeper and work on that shit, that
Right.
really uncomfortable stuff,
Right.
the stuff that you're worried about at a superficial level kind of takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like, yeah, I think that one of the examples that really strikes me is when somebody loses an X amount of weight or and their body composition changes in a positive direction, and they start to carry themselves different.
Right.
Right. The energy that they put off into the universe is what attracts them the things that they want.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily the fact that the A to Z change in and of itself. It's the energy that you're putting out into the universe now that is attracting you the things that you really want.
Right.
And you know, on the surface, it's like, oh, I look better, therefore I'm getting the things that I want.
Right.
But the truth is, you're different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you're more confident. You know what I mean? You carry yourself differently. It's not necessarily that you look different.
Right.
Your energy is different.
Yeah, your entire being's changed.
Yeah. And those are the kind of things that I really dive into in Inner Circle. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. You know, and you know, fitness is one of the greatest things that reveal what you're talking about, because for whatever reason, a lot of people start with this shallow identity of like, I want to get a six pack, I want to get guns, I want to, you know, big upper body, whatever, big chest.
Yeah.
And it always starts because they want to please the other person.
Yeah, Jason Phillips talked about that.
You're trying to.
I got into fitness because I thought chicks would want me because if I had a six pack.
Absolutely. And then along your journey, when you start seeing those changes in your mirror, the identity changes to where you're looking at yourself like, how can I sculpt this piece of clay to be the best art that I can make for myself? Not for this person sitting next to me in the weight room. It starts becoming an inflection point where you start looking at yourself more. I found that it's, you know, on my journey, it was like, yeah, I want to have abs because the reasons like you mentioned, like Jason Phillips. But then at like that 1 to 2 month mark, when I started seeing the changes in myself, then all the attention went within like, how can I make Jeff the best person I can make?
Right.
And you don't worry about the outside distractions because you're not doing anything in this world for anybody else.
Right.
You have to be doing it for yourself first. And that's the part where like self-identity has to start taking place, where the judgment of whatever is coming towards your way, like if I'm sitting here judging that next person, am I truly looking at myself? The same thing, the finger pointing back, three pointing back at you. It's that stuff.
Am I projecting?
Like this person may be going through whatever they're going through. So for me to make a judgment based off of the face they're making or what I perceive them to be a judgment that they're making of me is completely false. Because my judgment is just as bad as the judgment I think they're making of myself, right?
Yeah.
And so when those events happen where I say like, man, this person's mad dogging me for whatever reason, my younger self would have been like, all right, what's up then, you know? like what's up, you know? But now I look at it, I say, hell, Jeff, what's this saying about myself? Is this judgment, what am I thinking of myself in this moment? It's not what this outside influence is thinking of me. What am I thinking of myself in this moment? Am I insecure? Is something going through my head? What is the deeper issue? Right. And it always falls back into my lap now.
Dude, and I'll tell you, one of the greatest exercises in ownership that I've incorporated in my toolbox came from Ken Kilday. He has been my coach for the last 4 months in organizational leadership and development. And he's like, when you start, when you enter into that projective dialogue, take a breath, take a step back, and whatever, say what you're going to say, but lead with the story I'm telling myself is, and then now you own it.
Right.
It's not me attacking you. It's the acknowledgement of this is mine.
Right.
Right. And now we're able to move forward and be productive about whatever that conflict actually is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it just makes both of us more receptive to the other's point of view.
Right.
And it's been so huge. I use it with my wife. I use it with my members. I use it with my coaches. I use it everywhere.
Right.
And man, it has made things that would have been an immediate point of conflict and static go over so much smoother.
Right.
Because now you don't feel attacked. You understand that regardless of how this conversation is going to go, you can say that's my shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've owned it as my own.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not leaving the conversation like, oh, fuck Jeff. You know, like it's mine. And now if you don't see it the way that I see it, I've consciously acknowledged that this is my point of view, my perspective.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I heard, are you familiar with Marie Forleo? She runs a great YouTube, but she has this thing called B School where she's a female entrepreneur, 8-figure entrepreneur, helps women or helps individuals build the business from the ground up. Very inspirational and influential speaker.
Sure.
But she said one of the great things, and I thought she was like, everybody's doing the best they can with what they have every single day. So you just have to look at, like you were just talking about.
I didn't know she said that. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And she was just talking about, like, if you make a decision based, say you and I are having a conversation about the podcast or whatever.
Right.
If I make a decision and say, well, Derz is a fucking asshole on this one. You're doing the best you can with the information, the emotional intelligence you have for that day, for that moment. You're doing the best you have.
Right.
So for me to create a story about what this means between you and I in this certain conversation, like you mentioned, I have to say, this is my perception of what Derz is doing. It's not right because this is the story I'm creating. Like, he's mad. We're not friends. We're this. And it's like, no, that's completely false.
Sure.
You just take it for what it is. You understand each other's point of view at that point, and you just leave, like you said, at a friendly standpoint. But it's not like I hate him, he hates me. Yeah. It's done.
You're right. You're not making shit up.
You're not making stuff up.
Not really there.
And a lot of times you have to have that type of relationship to get to that point because as two men like ourselves, ego can get in the way coming from the backgrounds we came from. And it's like we've had to get to a point where we understand each other's mindset, where it's like Derz is making this decision because he's doing it for himself. He's trying to be the person he's evolved to be. I'm making my decisions based off of the person I'm trying to be. It's not because one of us hate one another or have type of ill will towards one another. Right. It's because we're trying to evolve to where we want to be. Right. We may be standing on the same platform together, and we're helping each other rise to the top. That doesn't necessarily mean our goals are entirely the same. Right. But we support each other at that same point. Exactly. And that's a point where I feel like you want those type of people in your circle because it's an understanding, not a judgment, not a false story. Exactly. It's an understanding of where each other are at the same point. So that's one of the things I've started to see is like you get more like as I start getting more involved and start learning more about people, of like how interactions or relationships happen and not making my own judgment like, oh, he said this, she said this, F them. Right. It's just like, okay, I have to understand where they are in their life right now. Something could have completely happened that I don't even know about.
Right. Where's the trigger?
Right. But I just have to, just be kind enough to say, like, I wish them the best on their path. Yeah. And I'm not going to accept my judgment of that at that point. Right. I'm just going to reflect and say, they may have had something traumatic going on in their life that I don't know about. Right. So wish them the best and wish hope that everything comes. And then the next time we come together, the conversation is going to be completely different,
Dude, I mean, go back to Bo Ash's podcast and him and I's relationship, and how it ended, kind of abruptly. Right. And then he went through his evolutionary process as I was going through mine. We came back together, and now the relationship is amazing. Right. You know what I mean? And we have the same kind of mutual respect that you and I have, you know, but to your point, you just have to let people go through their process and not judge them for going through it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I talk about that in the book, you know, when we almost fucking kanked this shit.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's a really long chapter about how, you know, like you said, I was doing the best I could with what I had, and not being able to verbalize where I was at in my process created this massive wall between us.
Right.
But because of the mutual respect, we were able to have a productive conversation, resolve it, and keep this thing moving forward. And now we're here now.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I don't think we've talked about that in depth at all.
Man. For the we'll do it on another show.
Yeah,
but
we have
to. It's a huge part of our story.
Right.
You know, I think that without the context of the psychology of conversation, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
But when you dive into it, it's like, oh shit, man! Like it was a really big deal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but you'll have to read the book.
Yeah.
To figure that out.
And then when does it drop again, bro?
March 1st.
March 1st.
Yeah. So 2 weeks.
Where can they find it, dude?
It'll be on Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah. We'll have all the we'll backlink everything once it's out for purchase and everything.
Nice, dude.
But yeah, man, it's called Inner Circle: Focus and Fulfillment Habits of the Enlightened. And it's all those conversations about the universe, manifestation, self-identity, getting out of your own way. You know, your struggle is your story.
Yeah.
You know, and like the reoccurring themes that we've addressed on the show, just condensed into 11 chapters.
Nice, dude. I'm excited to read it. Well,
I appreciate it, man.
We'll link everything up on the book cover and everything on these show notes for this episode.
The black cover one.
Oh, the black cover one?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
nice, dude. I like that one the best anyways.
That's what's up.
So we'll link all that up. And then, is it on pre-order as well? Do a pre-order?
Yeah. So I'm in the final round of edits. That should drop. That should come through today.
Okay.
Once that's finalized, it'll be ready for pre-order.
Nice, dude.
So we'll have all that stuff in the show notes.
Cool. We'll have it linked up. Congrats on that, dude.
I appreciate
it, man.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome, dude.
I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely a passion project of mine, and I'm looking forward to all the feedback that comes of it, and I can't wait to hear you know, everybody's feedback and revelations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think what I'm really interested in, I read it out loud on the way up to Telluride this past week.
Yeah.
And my wife is 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
And we had our nanny who just turned 21 this year.
Yeah.
And as I'm reading it out loud, they both, you know, in these two very different phases of life, still had aha moments based on like the principles and the stories that I share in the book.
Nice.
So if I can have that kind of impact on those two people, I'm really interested to see what kind of impact it has once it gets out there into the universe.
Nice, dude.
So
that's what's up, dude.
There you go.
I'm pumped.
I'm pumped, man. It's I'm a little nervous at the same time if I'm being completely honest, because like this one will blow manifestation of affirmation out of the water.
Right.
So I'm really pumped to get it out there.
That's me fun, dude.
Buy the book. There's our call to action. Ken would be pissed at me for us having this entire discussion and being like, so are you going to tell them to go get it?
Yeah.
So this is part of the evolutionary process.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be released on Amazon in 2 weeks. You know, for everybody out there in the Feed Me, Fuel Me tribe, I really appreciate your support, and we appreciate you enjoying our journey through this podcasting process. So until next time, guys, feed me, fuel me.